Hi, I'm Caitlin Gomez at the GBTA broadcast studio, coming to you live from San Diego, California. And today I'm here with Theresa Thomas, who's SVP of Global Strategies for WorldAware. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
I love this color. I told you before, I think it's great.
Thank you.
So, duty care is always top of mind. What specific areas do we need to focus on when thinking about the meetings and events industry?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think in the transient travel sector, we've been focused on duty of care for quite some time, which is great, and we've seen a tremendous evolution in that space. Meetings and events has lagged behind a little bit. We did actually a survey of the meetings and events industry, really focusing on the decision makers in that space to understand, what they feel their role is. I think what's critical to remember is that when you're talking about a meeting or event, you have to think of it the same way as transient. There's pre-meeting planning that goes on, right? So in the sourcing process, looking for where am I going to hold my meeting or event, what kinds of offsite activities am I going to have, what additional security or safety risks might those pose. And then there's kind of the during event. So you've got, not an individual transient traveler in a location, but oftentimes hundreds, if not thousands, like here at GBTA, who are kind of all coming together at one place and one time. Obviously that increases the risk from a security and a safety standpoint. So those during the meeting and planning and thinking through, what do I need to anticipate? How do I need to make sure I have the right support, security, and medical assistance should there be an event that happens? And then after the fact, I think oftentimes people forget that when people go home, especially from a health and medical perspective, that's a lot of times when people become symptomatic, they become exhausted or tired. I think we all know what it takes to spend 3 days at GBTA. It's a tremendous amount of energy that everybody puts in, both leading up to the event and afterwards. And we forget about the health and well-being of people sometimes once they get home. And again, when you're talking about not a single individual, but a group of individuals who may be impacted by food-related disease or viruses that they're exposed to or water contamination, that can have significant implications to a business if you have a large percentage of your population who now can't come into the office because they're not well.
Yeah.
So I think, on the meetings and events side, I would keep it simple. I think, we're starting to see some traction where the meeting planners feel that they have to look for solutions, and I would just encourage them to really think about those solutions as it applies to the planning process, the kind of during process and what they're doing while on site, and then as well, how are they taking care of and informing attendees once they get home.
I love that you pointed out the health and wellness, because in our GBTA mentor program this year, we actually tackled that, because I think not enough of us, we literally go until we burn ourselves out on fumes, right? Especially here. And it's so key, it's crucial, because if you don't take care of yourself, then you just, burn out. It's awesome.
Yeah.
What are the keys to building a successful risk management program?
So I think it's really, we always say there's 3 pillars to risk management: prepare, monitor, and respond. And you really have to be thinking about all 3 of those things when you're looking at whether it's transient travel risk management or meetings and events. The preparation side of it is really focused on how do you make sure you have all the right information, you as the administrator of the program or the meeting, as well as your attendees or those travelers, so that they're as informed as they can be before they go out on the road, so they can anticipate any kind of impacts that might happen and know how to respond to those. Because the reality is, while we can't predict everything, unfortunately, we certainly can prepare people with the right information and kind of knowing what to do when they find themselves in those critical moments. So instead of panic setting in or not knowing who to turn to for additional help or who to call, you've given them that information. The monitoring piece is where the companies typically come into play, or the meeting organizations, because they're providing that oversight of where people are in relation to the intelligence and things that we're issuing. And then the response piece, I have to say, I think, while in the travel transient side of things, we've come a long way in the prepare and monitor. What I think companies now are going to focus on, and we're having more questions brought to us at WorldAware, is about, okay, so, but when something happens, or you send us that alert and it says this event is developing, or we're predicting or forecasting a geopolitical protest. Okay, that's great, but what do we do? How do we provide people the support on the ground when they really need it in those critical moments? And so response is really, really important in making sure that that's an integrated part of your program.
Absolutely. So over the next 12 to 18 months, what will you be paying most attention to on the risk front?
I think that organizations need to think a little bit more broadly. I think, again, we've come a long way in travel risk management, but at the end of the day, you and I are also employees. Probably for 3/4 of the year, we are just employees. We don't have on that traveler hat. So we need to apply the same kinds of principles to people, whether they're on the road or off the road. Companies need to be thinking about duty of care and risk, whether you're working from home virtually, you might be commuting into the office, or you might be getting on a plane. So I think we have to look at the different personas that we all kind of play on any given day. And what we believe and what we see is that organizations, travel has kind of led the way in making sure that we're looking after people when they're on the road because we perceive them to be at a higher risk. But the reality is, unfortunately, in today's environment, that every day we go into the office, whether we're getting on an airplane or not, we are at a safety or security risk of someone driving down the road, if we're riding bikes or scooters like you see around here in San Diego, that we need to be paying attention to.
Great. Thank you so much for stopping by, Theresa. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
I'm Caitlin Gomez, live from the GBTA Broadcast Studios. See you next time.